Would you believe the first character ever created in Paralives was a goose? Goose, the chaotic star of Untitled Goose Game, was actually used as the first prototype for the Paralives character creator. Not officially a para, but let's just say they walked so the parafolk could run. It's fitting, really, a nameless character from an untitled game testing an unnamed character creator. I wonder if they realize the irony. Today, parafolk are both controversial yet refreshing. We all know the controversy, the debates, the reactions, the opinions about the parafolk, but how many of us really know the journey, the path that led from a mischievous goose to the expressive, detailed characters we see today? To truly appreciate these characters, we need to understand what it took to bring them to life. The journey of these simulated people has been long, dynamic, and full of evolution. And it all began in 2019, when one man's idea stepped out of his imagination and into development. In the beginning, the parafolk took many forms. First, an unnamed goose, then a pink blob with only a couple of sliders for customization. These early prototypes were the humble beginnings of what would eventually become the modern-day para, created using the in-depth paramaker. It wouldn't be until 2020, after a year of development, that the first official para was revealed. For eager fans, the wait felt like forever, but what they didn't know was that over the next 6 years, both the parafolk and the paramaker would undergo a dramatic evolution. By year 3, the team released a Paramaker overview showcasing just how detailed and customizable these characters could be. The community was introduced to a robust system of face and body sliders, a color wheel that allowed nearly everything from skin tones to clothing to be recolored, and most impressively, an adjustable height slider, a feature often considered too complex for live sims, yet Paralives Studio found a way to make it work, while keeping animation smooth and satisfying. By year 4, the parafolk finally found their voices. The team revealed Parli, a spoken language created not from random gibberish, but through research, testing, and even a custom phonetic alphabet. What started as playful nonsense quickly grew into something structured, enough to feel believable but still free of literal meaning so players could tell their own stories. And finally, in year 6, Paralives Studios announced that players would get to explore all of these features by the next holiday season. In this video, I'll walk you through the timeline of how the parafolk Parafolk were visually brought to life. We'll take a closer look at the development team's evolving art direction and explore the creative decisions that shaped the Parafolk as we know them today. Now, just to be clear, this video focuses only on the visual development of the Parafolk. If you notice gaps in the timeline, it's because this is part 1 of a 3-part series. Part 2 and 3 will dive into the development of live mode and gameplay, followed by the build mode and the world of Paralives. An AMA on Patreon gave fans the chance to help name the characters of Paralives. At the time, we only had a few build mode videos and the official name of the game itself, so naturally most suggestions were a play on the title. Alex Massey, the creator, narrowed it down to 4 name options, each with singular and plural variants. The community was asked to vote between Para/Parapals, Para/Paras, Para/Parafolk, and Pally/Pallies. I didn't join their Patreon until around 2020, so I missed the vote, and honestly, I'm not sure which one I would have picked, but Para and Paras rolls off the tongue, so maybe that would have been my pick, just to keep things simple. Later that month, the first Para pet got a birthday shout out on Twitter. Funny enough, the very first Para we saw in Paralives was a dog, way before the Parafolk even made their debut. When asked why, Alex had a simple answer. Why is there a dog in Paralives before there's a human character, you might ask? Who would want to live in a world without dogs? So they have to be there first. Makes perfect sense. Dogs first, people eventually. At least we got a semi-confirmation that pets are a part of the Paralives world, and honestly, who could argue with that? Yet as we know, Para singular and Parafolk plural won the popular vote by a landslide with 546 out of 829 votes. It seemed the small but passionate community was pretty much decided. Nameless no more, Parafolk was officially announced as the name for the people of Paralives. A major milestone was announced. Paralives was no longer a solo project. Through a Patreon update, Alex revealed that 2 3D artists, Leah and Roxanne, had officially joined the team to work on characters, furniture, and various in-game objects. This was the moment Paralives shifted from a solo project to a team effort. While this video focuses on the visual development of the Parafolk, it's worth remembering that the team has steadily grown over the years, from just 1 developer to now a team of 14 working to bring the game to life. After the success of naming the Parafolk, the team decided to open another community poll, this time to name the character creator. But before suggestions were considered, a few popular names were taken off the table for good reason. For example, Create a Para was ruled out as they wanted to make sure Paralives remain unique. I've noticed over the years, and even still to this day, fan requests are often derived from other games in the life sim space. Giving Paralives its own unique terms and themes would benefit the game's brand recognition. If a new life sim had borrowed aspects from The Sims, I don't believe there will be much of a lasting legacy when the newness fades away. Another suggestion, Make a Para, was also excluded. They confirmed this was to avoid confusion with other features in-game. An open-world life sim is certain to have a map, and having a mode with the same acronym is an easy way to confuse players. With the guidelines in place, the team launched a new poll featuring 5 of the most popular community suggestions. By then, the Paralives community had grown significantly with over 2,000 people casting their votes. Personally, I would have gone with Paralives Studios. It plays off the name of the developer and feels fitting for the time I could spend in a character editor. But in the end, majority rules. With 951 votes, Paramaker was chosen as the official name for the character creator. Biased or not, Paramaker carries that certain uniqueness that's meant for a game like this. Official names have been decided, and Paralives Studios' next focus became creating a fundamental tool, the color wheel. This feature was revealed to show that different sections of the hair could be recolored. In the Patreon post announcing this feature, the team confirmed their goal was to offer a wide range of customization options. At this point, the color wheel was already proving useful in build mode, but this was the first time we saw it applied to Paramaker. The developers emphasized that players should be able to choose exact colors for the different parts of the hair: base, roots, tips, and streaks. As we continue through the timeline, you'll see that customization consistently remained a top priority in developing key features. I really appreciate their commitment to keeping player creativity front and center, an impressive mindset to have, yet this was not enough to fend off concerns on development. One of the biggest questions from fans was, why haven't we seen the Parafolk yet? Paralives was promised as a life simulator, and nearly a year in, the life was still missing. This Patreon post was used to give a brief explanation of why that is. In February 2020, the team only had 3 developers. A small team like that needed time for research and testing. Their main priority was designing both the Parafolk and Paramaker, so they wanted to hold off on an official reveal until they were far enough along. In the meantime, patrons got access to a behind-the-scenes post diving deeper into the testing and design process. I won't spoil anything here since it's still private, but if you have access, it's definitely worth the read. Those posts really highlight just how talented the developers are. With that insight, I might have guessed Paralives would take 10 years or more, but with a growing team, now 14 strong, they managed to reach early access in 6. In my very inexperienced opinion, flowers are much overdue for Paralives Studios. Their work ethic and vision is genuinely impressive. Funny how they had to address concerns about the Parafolk reveal, even though it was only 3 months away. The community wasn't exactly patient, but to be fair, the team heard their concerns and responded. Rather than rushing a reveal, they shared the backstory of the very first Parafolk on Patreon. Here's a direct quote from the public post. She has an incredibly big passion for astronomy and loves music, reading, and roller skating. When she graduated a few years ago, she moved in with her cat in this loft that she decorated herself. She had this huge custom bookcase made to put all of her astronomy books in. Before the fans were given the chance to vote on her name, the team shared a short introduction to help us get to know this important para. Over 2,000 people voted, with 8% choosing Nancy, 11 going for Michelle, Sasha taking second place with 34%, and the winning name, Maggie, earning 47% of the votes. Anticipation was running high for the Parafolk reveal, but instead of a full character, fans were shown a shadowed silhouette of Maggie in her gorgeous loft. By this point, the community was already familiar with some staple build mode features. They were met with mostly positive reactions, especially as the art style kept improving. Now all eyes were on the Parafolk, and fans were eager to see if the characters would live up to the beautiful world being built around them. And just 4 days later, as promised, Maggie was revealed as the first para. What we could never anticipate were the few extra surprises. The video, being just under 2 minutes, managed to cover highly requested features wanted by many in the live sim community. Exploring these features in order of appearance, you can open Paramaker right from live mode by clicking on a dresser. Instead of switching to a separate mode, time simply pauses and you get full customization options. Love this for the sake of immersion. It just feels more natural for your character to never actually leave live mode. Other features that got a lot of hype when the reveal dropped were the height slider, the push and pull mechanic, and the color wheel being used to recolor sections of the hair. The reveal was met with overwhelming praise, bringing a lot of attention to the indie game. Most fans were happy with the art style since the Parafolk matched the vibe of the build items, both featuring a cel-shaded look. Of course, the art direction eventually does change. Personally, I think both the early cel-shaded style and the current design look great. The newer Parafolk design is fantastic for brand recognition, but if they stuck with the cel shading, just with some improvements in polish, it would still have that same charm. It wasn't long after Maggie that work began on designing a new male para. The first time he was mentioned publicly was in a Patreon post that welcomed a new team member, Alice, a 3D animator, bringing the total number of developers to 5. The update also shared progress on the male para's design. Through a series of private posts, patrons made suggestions and voted on his backstory and occupation. We're soon introduced to Sebastian, and right away I noticed some similarities to Maggie's reveal. The art style still has that cel-shaded vibe, which makes sense given how close the two reveals were. Paramaker can still be opened while in live mode, but this time it's done a bit differently by using the mirror to edit appearance. The UI stays consistent with its transparent bluish gray color scheme. What's interesting is that the Paralives UI has been constantly evolving throughout development, so seeing this simple, understated look back in 2020 shows the team's early preference for clean and subtle design. The biggest differences I noticed were the essential features shown to the public for the first time. The body and facial hair were fully recolorable using both swatches and the color wheel. Freckles had multiple variations. Even the tattoo system, though simple, looked surprisingly realistic for such an early stage. All of these features would eventually get major upgrades, but at the time, there was a clear focus on simplicity. It makes sense given the team was still small and early in development. Honestly, I think that simplicity worked in Paralives' favor. It's part of why the reveal was so well received. Looking back, I realized how little was actually shown, and maybe that was the appeal. They shared just just enough to let viewers imagine the rest. Or maybe they really did show everything they had at the time, since this was only halfway through year 2. As a complete surprise to the public, but not to patrons, a new video was released showcasing the name customization system. I'm starting to realize Paralives is adding features I never would have thought to ask for, but once they're revealed, I just know they'll end up being something I'll use all the time. In the advanced name customization system, you'll be able to add an optional nickname, include a middle name or leave it blank, invert the first and last name, and disable either the first or last name entirely. In the description, they confirm that artist/stage names and titles such as doctor are being considered. I'm speculating these can come up again when there's gameplay that relates to these options. Given the gameplay could be something like being famous or getting a doctoral degree, it might be a long while before we see them added. A how it started versus how it's going post popped up on Twitter showing an early Parafolk prototype next to Maggie in her loft. It was a simple side-by-side, but you could really see how far things had come, especially in terms of the style and polish. After listening to community feedback, the team went back and reworked the 3D model used to generate the Parafolk. They realized the original base was causing issues during animation, like weird deformations when the characters were bending, twisting, or being scaled. Fixing this meant smoother animations and a more stable foundation overall. The updated model came with some big improvements, starting with proportions. The team shifted to a more unisex base, making it easier to add either masculine or feminine features without restrictions. Clothes can now be worn by any para, regardless of gender or body type, and they'll fit naturally. It's a subtle change, but one that opens the door for more flexibility and representation. Meshing for the head has been completely overhauled. This was important because accurate facial animations can be animated on the para's face to have them feel more alive. Hands have been reworked to be more realistic and bigger. I do have concerns about the sizing of the hands, mainly for children. Interesting to know this is where the big hands was originated from. The tiny feet of the Parafolk have been corrected, and I especially remember comments back then calling out the fairy feet. We were heard, and now they have been resized to a size 7 US and a size 40 EU. The toes were also remodeled to be more accurate with individual digits. The flaws in Sebastian's reveal were noticed and made more anatomically correct. The torso was made more gender neutral to now be more dynamic in customization when determining if the character will have breasts or not. The back and shoulders were also cleaned and proportions have been corrected for realism. With the base of the Parafolk being overhauled, they could start working on the recreations of Maggie and Sebastian, and the former will soon be revealed with noticeable adjustments to the art style. Just in time for the holidays, a themed Paramaker update is posted that focuses on the beginning of the clothing system. Not much there, but what is already setting a standard for the expected quality of Paralives. Mixed and matched socks were introduced as a small but fun feature, allowing you to choose the option for left, right, or both. Being able to select socks individually might even hint at other interchangeable accessories in the future. A subtle mechanic with a lot of creative potential. The art style has clearly gone through its own journey. Since we last saw Maggie, there's been noticeable polish added. The difference between Sebastian's reveal and the holiday outfits clip is easy to spot. You can really see the phases the team went through while refining the game's visual direction. So far, the most recent holiday update feels the closest to today's style. It's where we start to see the beginnings of the finalized look take shape. Updates for the first para of the new year were mostly kept private. In May, a throwback was made public showing the testing done to the new model. The graphics have come a long way from when we were introduced to Maggie. Ignoring the crunchy GIF, you can see the quality differences of then versus now. Seeing these updates make me realize how far along they actually were in development. As we follow along their progress, the less and less the opinion of Paralives taking too long makes sense. Within the first year, a good base model and impressive features were already added to the Paramaker. I'm not even sure if they had a team of 10 at this point, and to me personally, they are keeping up with an average development time frame. The foundation of Paramaker has been set, and I believe this is when they started really honing in on perfecting Paramaker. What felt like a dry spell to the public was actually the team preparing to show off the next phase of the character creator. Holiday season seems to be Paralives' favorite time of the year to show off their hard work. To celebrate the spooky season, they released a short video of a new Halloween costume. The first time we see Maggie's recreation after the 3D model overhaul. Comparing the first to the updated reveal, there was a huge jump in graphics. In retrospect, we were one large step closer to today's current aesthetics. Paralives Studio just hit a big milestone. The team is now 10 strong. The new additions include Chloe, an environment artist now working with Leah and Sonia to level up everything from houses to furniture and all the little details that bring the Parafolk's world to life. And Sandrine, the new communications director who's here to keep the community connected and gather feedback from players. It's a big step for development, and with more hands on deck, you'll want to pay attention to the changes that start rolling out from here. Heterochromia was announced on Thanksgiving Day. It was confirmed that eye colors can be set individually for the left and right or kept the same. Another feature using the mix and match mechanic. While parts of the community were brought to tears by the update, others were still having a hard time adjusting to the art direction. I remember being a lot more understanding of those comments back then. With only one game dominating the genre, maybe it gave fans a sense of entitlement to dictate what should be the art direction for Paralives. I still wonder if the life sim genre had more variety, would it have felt reasonable to expect Paralives to match personal preferences? Personally, if a game doesn't meet mine, then it just wasn't made for me. I think it speaks to how desperate players were for another option, but looking back, some of those demands feel a little ridiculous now. Despite rising concerns and growing demands, the Paralives team stayed true to their vision and continued to share exciting new updates. One post on Twitter featured a GIF confirming that progress had been made on hair physics. Now, in my unpopular opinion, I really don't care for hair physics. My immersion has never been broken by stationary hair, and honestly, it only ever looks good to me in games backed by massive AAA budgets. I've noticed that in more recent videos, the hair physics seem to be missing and have been for a while. If the feature was paused or even removed entirely, it wouldn't be a make or break issue for me. That said, the animation in this short clip was genuinely satisfying. If they can bring it back without causing problems elsewhere, they should go for it. I've yet to be anything but impressed by what this team is capable of. Hair physics wasn't the only feature they had to drop. The push and pull body and face adjustments got removed too, thanks to a patent protecting direct manipulation. Instead, they switched to sliders paired with diagrams to tweak shape, size, and rotation. The goal was to keep character editing immersive. Clicking on your para still works, but now it's on a visual diagram that houses all sliders. A boring list of sliders would have been overwhelming, so the diagram keeps things fun and easy to follow. Plus, you can still fine-tune by typing in exact numbers below and even copy those settings between Parafolk. This might even replace the old detailed edit mode, meaning all sliders would be right there when you pick a body part. Huge props for turning a roadblock into something smart and fresh, and might even help set Paralives apart from The Sims a bit more. Watching a recent YouTube clip, I noticed the Parafolk don't look that different from the environment. Despite some community complaints, the biggest difference is the clean and stylized outlines that give the characters an almost 2D drawn look, even though they are still 3D models. Turns out that's on purpose. The outlines help the Parafolk pop from the background, so they're easy to spot in game. Honestly, I like how this mixes style with function. It's a cool and unique touch. 2021 was a huge milestone year for Paralives. To mark their progress, the team released a 4-minute overview highlighting exciting new customization features that took the game to the next level. Some of the key features shown off were the ability to equip any outfit regardless of gender, a full range of skin tones using swatches and the color wheel, freehand tattoo placement and scaling, mole placement and scaling, realistic fat and muscle sliders, customizable patterns for some clothing, Adam's apple adjustment, heterochromia, and various facial and body hair options for parafolks of any gender. This overview wasn't just about showing off features, it was an early sign that the team's focus was shifting and preparing to lay the groundwork for other exciting modes in Paralives. Plus, it helped catch anyone up who might have missed smaller updates. Upgraded versions of Maggie and Sebastian were on display as examples of these new customization options. Marvin was welcomed as a new townie who is described as colorful, artistic, charismatic, and open-minded. He's well known and very respected by neighbors. While walking around town, you might often see him chatting with someone he crossed paths with. At home, Marvin has a family for which he cares for deeply and is very proud of. But the biggest surprise, the reveal of Eli, the first child para. In a later Paramaker development commentary, Eli is described as Sebastian's adoptive son. Speaking of new townies, it's hard to ignore Eli, our freshly introduced first child townie. His adoptive father Sebastian got him a jacket that's very similar to his, and Eli just loved that. That's why they had to both wear it for this week's photo shoot. Eli and his father are new in town and are looking to start fresh after some hard moments of which the details are still unclear. Please greet them in the neighborhood. With this major update and the introduction of the first child Paralives caught a lot of attention and earned many new eager supporters. But with new eyes on the game, not all the feedback was praised. Controversy was also brewing. The Paramaker overview really brought the art style into focus, exposing some of the amazing but sometimes hard to understand elements to viewers. It sparked a lot of questions, but the one that inspired the year's first public post was, why don't the Parafolk match the art style of the environment? The team wanted to clear things up and explain why this is an intentional choice that won't change aside from some general polish and improvements. When shaping the art direction, the team created design pillars to keep the artist consistent throughout development. Here's a quote from their much needed Patreon post that lays out their core guidelines. A unique style that distinguishes us. When seeing our style, we want people to know that it's from Paralives. Serves gameplay. At the end of the day, our main focus is the gameplay, not the aesthetics. Make Parafolks stand out. They have to be easy to spot, even in a big cluttered house, for players' ease. Quick to produce. We are only a few artists, unlike big companies where there are hundreds of them, so it's important to have a style that isn't too demanding time-wise. We also have tricks to work quickly and efficiently. Supports customization. More freedom to the player. After the design pillars were established, the artists had to figure out what art style would be best to support the warm, comforting themes already forming. For the Parafolk, the team leaned toward a hand-sketched appearance. Their main inspiration came from the artist Leslie O, whose work features soft highlights and defining outlines. This particular style is called toon shading, a type of rendering where shadows are sharp and stylized instead of smooth and blended. To achieve the desired look, illustrative outlines are applied from an in-game engine. The hair design took a slightly different approach. It has a watercolor-like softness that helps the strands look natural and flowing for all hair types. This is one of the key areas where the characters and the environment begin to differ. The world around the Parafolk were designed with gameplay in mind. It's meant to support the characters, not distract from them. For visual reference, the team looked at Demon Slayer: The Hinokami Chronicles, which helped inspire the soft hand-painted textures seen throughout the game. That painterly approach doesn't just align with Paralives' indie style, it also allows for more environmental detail without overwhelming the player. The result is a subtle contrast between the characters and their surroundings. They may look like they're crafted in different ways, but both styles still share that same handcrafted artistic vibe. Most importantly, all these design decisions result in realistic proportions and better performance. The Patreon post does a great job of breaking it down. Yes, there is a contrast, but it's intentional. The Parafolk are meant to stand out, while both the characters and the world still share that same handcrafted feel. To me, that's what makes the art direction so effective. They picked a style, built some guidelines around it, and committed. That's good art. What better fit for an indie game than something that feels like it was truly made by hand? With the largest concerns answered, smaller updates continued. They posted to Twitter how spinning a para in Pam can make them a bit dizzy. A common sentiment I shared with commenters is the small details really take the game to a new level. They're consistent in reminding players the inconsequential features like this animation are added for a more immersive player experience. This is where the focus starts to shift, from how the Parafolk look to how they live, move, and interact with the world. Up until now, the spotlight's been on building the Parafolk, nailing down their design, refining Paramaker, and shaping their overall visual identity. From this point on, the team begins putting more energy into live mode, bringing the Parafolk to life through animations, interactions, and gameplay systems. With that said, there's still some significant Parafolk-related updates in the works. You'll see new features drop here and there, but the bigger headline-making updates start leaning heavily into live mode. So to keep things focused on the Parafolk's visual evolution, I'll be saving all the live mode content for part 2, where things finally start to move, interact, and get a whole lot more interesting. The clothing system got a big boost with the new layering mechanic. Now you can stack coats, tops, shoes, and socks for more outfit combos. For example, Sebastian's iconic leather jacket and sweater are now separate items. You can wear them together, mix them with other pieces, or go solo with either one. The team explained why and how in a private Patreon post, but you can catch the system in action on YouTube and Twitter, where the update was first revealed. The community was quick to react, sharing their thoughts across both platforms. One feature that definitely deserved a closer look is the advanced tattoo placement system. The team shared a clip on Twitter showing off how you can place, resize, rotate, flip tattoos, and choose exactly where they go on the body, plus an elegant black and gray option. Recent improvements added color swatches, an opacity slider, and the ability to place tattoos on the arms, legs, torso, chest, and surprisingly, even the face. I don't remember ever seeing face tattoos in a life sim. The devs keep yes-anding these features and constantly building on what's already there, and it's starting to get overwhelming on how good it all is. With summer in full swing, the team has been hard at work at developing live mode features, but as a side project, they created photo mode, originally made in their spare time to help capture shots showcasing Paralives updates. It quickly became clear this tool would be perfect for players to capture their own crafted scenes, so they decided to make it available to everyone. Photo mode is planned as a separate mode where time is paused, and you'll have full control over your Parafolk, the time of day, and other settings to create the perfect backdrop. You can freely move characters around, play different animations, and pick the exact moment to pause so you can get the perfect pose. Once your Parafolk, whether from your household or non-played characters, are positioned, you can tweak the mood with filters, special effects, and stickers. You'll also be able to adjust object positions and the time of day to get the scene just right. The most exciting part is none of the changes made in photo mode will affect your gameplay. What you do with this powerful feature is totally up to you. Players can create scenes to share their stories with the community, but personally, I'm excited to use photo mode to capture in-game memories. Later, when we dive into build mode, I'll explain the advanced picture system that lets you save photos to your PC and use them as in-game artwork. I can already imagine the flood of family portraits, school photos, and capture moments that tell your Parafolk's life story. It's such an underrated feature that's bound to get the recognition it deserves once we finally get to play. Sneak peeks usually come after a feature has gone through the development cycle and polish for viewers to enjoy, but Paralives broke that habit with a post on Twitter showing a very early version of Paramaker, possibly before we can even call it Paramaker. This was a way to appreciate how far Alex's solo project has come, evolving into a full team effort made possible by the support of a strong community. What started as a simple pink blob, customizable by just 5 basic sliders, has grown over the years into a complex and detailed passion project. Adult life stages often take center stage in life sims, but Paralives Studio decided to shift that focus specifically toward our beloved elders and the detailed work behind creating their skin textures. The team gathered references from a wide range of ages and ethnicities, amazed by how vast the spectrum of elderhood truly is. They felt it was important to reflect that diversity in-game. To help players create their ideal senior para, the team added wrinkle customization. In PAM, you'll have 3 wrinkle variations, with more planned for areas like the forehead, cheeks, mouth, and eyes. These can be used simultaneously, allowing for endless combinations. When your Parafolk reach the elder life stage, they will each have a base body texture that shows their age, and additional textures will be available as skin details. Want more realism? Add brown spots, cellulite, and more to give your elder Parafolk extra personality. And if you're wondering, yes, cellulite will also be available for younger Parafolk. Hair aging hasn't been overlooked either. Hair will automatically turn white with aging, but players can still customize it to reflect the para's unique journey and going gray. I love that they're starting with the mindset rooted in representing the many stages of elderhood. If this thoughtful approach carries over into future customization and even gameplay, we could be in for a refreshingly deep and unique elder experience that life sims have been missing for far too long. Staying on topic of the face, facial hair got a closer look on Twitter, and the mix and match mechanic makes another return. Instead of facial hair being a single unit, beards and mustaches are now interchangeable. I really hope this system keeps showing up throughout Paramaker because it's such a clever way to turn just a few options into tons of combinations. And of course, facial hair will have full access to the color wheel. You can toggle it to match the hair color or go a little wild and give your para a bright pink beard. A new Patreon post introduced us to 2 adorable life stages we hadn't met yet. Continuing with the same inspiration behind the adult Parafolk, artist Leslie O designed the main reference for what toddlers will look like in Paralives. After many wholesome reference images, the team reached a point where the textures for both babies and toddlers were ready to share. In the images posted, we see the highlights and outlines remain consistent with the overall art style, just softer, creating a cuddlier look. As a bonus sneak peek, we also got to see the baby textures in live mode and even caught our first glimpse of the crawling animation. Can I just say how grateful I am that babies are an actual life stage and not just glorified eggs waiting to evolve into toddlers? They're actual beings. They move, they make noise, they might even have entertaining gameplay, gameplay, just look how lively they are in the crib. Not at all like those creepy-eyed dolls that stare into your soul and promise chaos in 3 days. Toddlers weren't left out either. The cutest, chunkiest little para was used to show what gradual aging might look like between toddler and child. Based on how this was presented, I'm guessing that aspect is still in early development, but even seeing the idea is exciting. What we do know for sure is that babies and toddlers will have 2 different body textures, but they'll share a lot of clothing. I'm a huge fan of this decision for 2 reasons. One, it hopefully makes things a bit easier on the team, meaning we could get more clothing options overall. And 2, it opens up more possibilities for storytelling, matching sibling outfits, hand-me-downs, or just aesthetic consistency. Like I've said before, any excuse for more gameplay is a good one. For the final post of the year, the community got a look at a character creation test focused entirely on faces. The goal was to make sure Paramaker could support recreating a wide range of ethnicities. The test resulted in a spectrum of faces, textures, and sliders that allowed for more diverse facial features, and it clearly paid off as the team showcased a few anonymous parafolk, each with their own unique look. Because of this test, same face syndrome isn't exactly a valid excuse anymore, not in Paralives. The team emphasized the importance of this kind of diversity, not just for the sake of variety, but so players can genuinely see themselves and their families in-game. It's a powerful way to connect with a project that already means so much to so many. Hair was also acknowledged as a huge part of representing identity. When it came to creating coily hair, the team aimed for a texture that felt believable while respecting the game's art direction. I think they nailed it. If they continue down this path, showcasing more textures, styles, and representation across ethnicities, the character creator alone could have a dynamic, lasting impact on the life sim genre. Fashion has slowly but steadily made its way into the spotlight through a series of public Patreon posts, each one unveiling new Paramaker items from clothing and accessories to essential hairstyles, starting in March 2023 and continuing through the most recent in May 2025. These updates gave us glimpses into new hairstyles, clothing, and accessories that are planned to be available when Paralives enters early access. From essential basics to party-ready statement pieces, the range has grown into something worth analyzing more closely. So what kind of fashion identity is Paralives aiming for at launch? After compiling all the reveals so far, a clear direction starts to emerge. One that's less about chasing trends and more about versatility, representation, and player creativity. Unlike the base games of other life sims that often lock into a narrow fashion era, like the everyday style of the early 2010s or the fast fashion trends of the 2020s, Paralives seems to be carving out its own path. The goal is to make sure everyone can see themselves in game. That means offering a wide range of styles without overwhelming the player. There's a strong focus on basic pieces like tees, hoop earrings, skinny jeans, and everyday sneakers, intentionally neutral staples that fit a variety of aesthetics, whether your para prefers minimalist, streetwear, or something more eclectic. At the same time, the team is making room for variety. From what we've seen, they're covering multiple archetypes, from trendy and youthful to classic and vintage, across all ages, cultures, and seasons. Layered outfits and traditional pieces suggest that the clothing system is being designed with all 4 seasons in mind. It's all worth noting that several items appear to nod towards specific styles and traditions, hinting at a commitment to cultural representation. And of course, the life in life sim means dressing for the moments that matter. Several pieces revealed so far, like semi-formal looks, statement jackets, and party-ready outfits, feel like wardrobe staples for milestone events. Whether it's a birthday, a night out, or a backyard wedding, it seems the devs want your para to show up in style. If this is just the foundation, I'm excited to see how the fashion evolves post-launch. But for now, it looks like Paralives is set to launch with a wardrobe that's equal parts expressive, inclusive, and practical, something we don't often get all at once in life sim fashion. While this timeline mainly focuses on visuals, the spoken language of the Parafolk is too important to skip. Language isn't just about words, it's a big part of how these characters express themselves. Seeing how the devs developed the spoken language gives us insight into the care and depth behind making the Parafolk come alive. That said, this topic doesn't quite fit into the gameplay or world building timelines, so instead of getting into how conversations will actually work, I'll save that for the next part of this mini-series, where we'll dive deeper into the chat system and how Parafolk truly interact. For now, it's all about understanding the language itself and why its development plays such a key role in shaping how Parafolk sound and interact in a way that feels believable. Now, with more life than ever, the Parafolk can finally speak. An official language has been created. It's called Parli, a clever play on the game's title. The reveal clip shows two Parafolk chatting in this new, surprisingly satisfying language. According to the Patreon post behind this reveal, the chat with interaction was made specifically for the demo. Conversations will actually function differently in-game. As for the voices, what you hear in the video isn't final. The team plans to re-record the lines with professional voice actors. Now, there are voice actors out there who can speak convincing gibberish, but the way Parli was created will require an entirely different skill set, and that's what makes it so interesting. So what exactly is Parli? In simple terms, it's a spoken language built from localized gibberish. Unlike the written language in Paralives, which will use real-world text, a choice I surprisingly love, Parli is how Parafolk will communicate and express themselves. They'll be able to have conversations, ask questions, argue, tell jokes, flirt, and interact in all sorts of fun and believable ways. And now for the fun part, how was this not so simple language created? Honestly, calling Parli gibberish almost feels like a disservice. The effort that went into its creation brings it dangerously close to being a full-on conlang, a constructed language. True to form, Paralives Studio did what they always do: research, testing, and more research. They explored everything from altering existing words to theater improv exercises to even playing around with universal languages like Esperanto and Interlingua. But as development went on, the ideas became more complex. The team studied how actual linguists build languages, starting with a specific sound palette, then applying consistent rules to form structure. From that process, they developed over 20 different approaches and recorded more than 2,000 instances of words and expressions. They even ran a survey within the team to collect feedback and help pick their favorite direction. And while they probably could have kept brainstorming forever, it was time to make a decision. That decision: build an entire phonetic alphabet, complete with its own set of rules. They really could have just thrown together some fun nonsense and called it a day, but if there's one thing to know about this team, it's that they don't settle for good enough. Of course, they also set a few creative guidelines to make sure Parli still matched the cozy, grounded vibe of Paralives, even if the system behind it was more intricate than expected. Parli was designed to be incomprehensible gibberish to give the player freedom of storytelling, different from the made-up languages of other franchises, minimalistic without long and exaggerated sentences, less is more, distinct enough from English gibberish while still sounding realistic enough as if it could exist in real life, and not too goofy but also not too serious, with a good balance that would give a cozy effect. And just like that, the foundation of Parli was born, giving life to these beautifully crafted simulated people. Now, does Parli meet every technical requirement of a true conlang? No, it's still best described as localized gibberish, but let's be honest, this is some pretty impressive gibberish. It makes it a whole lot easier to believe my para is having a real little moment with someone, telling a joke, whispering a secret, or just vibing. Alright, so here's the big news we've all been waiting for. Paralives finally has an official early access release date, December 8th, 2025 on Steam. This isn't just a rumor or a vague promise anymore, it's real and it's coming soon. So yeah, definitely something to get excited about. Along with that, the team dropped a brand new trailer during the PC gaming show, and it looks really good. You get a real feel for the town, how Parafolk go about their day, and the kind of gameplay that's been teased for years now. It's like seeing the vision take shape for the first time in full color. But that's not all, they also revealed some fresh key art by Mario Mirabaches, which is stunning, and updated the game's logo. The new handwritten style feels way more personal and creative, exactly what the game is all about, telling your own stories through your Parafolk. Let's take a moment to appreciate the art style in the release date trailer. The core art direction remains familiar, the toon shading, the highlights and outlines, and the way the Parafolk stand out against their environment. It's that distinctive look we've come to recognize and appreciate. What feels different this time though is the way the game almost feels like it has built-in G-shade, a natural boost of life, color, and vibrance that brings brings everything together. There's a sense of harmony now, a completeness that wasn't quite there before. It feels like the world has settled into its own rhythm where every detail, every shade works together to create something truly whole. It makes sense really. With early access just around the corner, it's like the game has stepped fully into its identity. The visuals don't just convey a style anymore. They invite you in, making the world feel alive and ready to be experienced. Looking back from 2019 to 2025, it's amazing to see just how far the Parafolk have come. What started with a goose prototype and a pink blob of sliders has grown into a cast of characters who feel expressive and customizable. We've seen the art direction take shape from bold outlines and painterly textures to carefully considered hairstyles, fashion, and even wrinkles that show the experiences your para has carried with him. Along the way, we watched Maggie, Sebastian, and Marvin become recognizable townies, and Eli step in as the first child para. We saw elders, babies, and toddlers introduced with just as much thought and care as the adult parafolk. We saw diversity expand through new face textures, skin tones, hair types, and fashion choices that reflect a wide spectrum of real-world identities. And of course, we heard Parli for the very first time, a language born not just from gibberish, but from research, craft, and intention. From early sketches to fully realized characters, the Parafolk timeline is a reminder of how Paralives has grown from one developer's vision into a game with heart, creativity, and a strong identity all on its own. The visuals now feel complete, but the story of Paralives is far from over. Because while appearances matter, the real question is, what's life like with the Parafolk? That's where part 2 of this 3-part miniseries comes in. In the next video, we'll explore the development of gameplay and life mode, everything from personality systems, vibes, and lifestyles to how Parafolk move, interact, and build relationships. We'll dive into the chat system, what daily life feels like, and the animations that make them more than just models on a screen. And then in part 3, we'll shift our focus to build mode and the world of Paralives, from furniture systems to terrain, neighborhood design, and the little details that make a house feel like a home. We'll trace the evolution of how the team built not just the characters, but the world they live in. So while this chapter, the story of the Parafolk's visual journey, has reached its conclusion, the bigger picture is still unfolding. The Parafolk are the heart of Paralives, but it's the gameplay and the world around them that will bring that heart to life.